So this week we're going to do something a bit different than we've been doing in the last couple of weeks. So for this hostel chat, we invited Daphne, which is from Agrufo, which is the hostel network in Spain. And we're going to ask her a couple of questions. We're going to start by asking her to introduce herself and then asking her several questions about the network. Feel free to ask any questions you want in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll also leave us some time at the end for a Q&A, so you can keep your videos on. Then at the end, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask as many questions as you want. As usual, this will take between 1 hour and a half. And yeah, so let's get started. So Daphne, first of all, thank you for joining us for this hostel chat.
Beatrice?
Yeah, Dror?
I'm sorry to jump in, and I'm happy that I saw somebody new, Daphne, that's perfect. But like usually we get like maybe another couple of minutes for people to join. I think usually like last week and the week before we had more people now.
Yeah, but we usually wait until 5 minutes after.
Okay.
And,
yeah. Go for it.
I will actually, if I could, Beatrice, just before Daphne introduces herself, I just kind of like to let everyone know that this kind of came about in, I'm in many chat groups, but one of the chat groups is a Spanish hostel chat group. They got pretty big because people were needing help and to speak to each other and bounce ideas. And the group was a little bit unproductive at first, or not unproductive, but less focused, we'll say. And I noticed after a while that the group was really starting to get organized and actually doing something very active in order to, let's say, have more power with handling certain issues. And it really was a good inspiration and example that I wanted to bring everyone in a way that we can work together whether like we're doing now with different countries, but within our own countries, come together, and what benefits that could have if we all cooperate with other hostels. And so I reached out to Daphne, as Beatrice introduced, because she's kind of one of the people spearheading this kind of network. I'll let her explain it, but it's a network of hostels that are getting together in order to get support together. So based on that, Daphne, if you could introduce yourself.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Lior, and thanks, Beatrice, for inviting me here, guys. So I'm Daphne. I'm a hostel lover. I'm actually not a hostel owner. I've been working in hostels for a few years, and one of my contacts, so my previous boss, is basically one of the minds that is on the base of Agruppo. So what is Agruppo? Because I think I said enough about me. I'm just like here, I'm helping, and I like to collaborate. I like hostels, and I'm Italian, as you probably can hear from my accent, and I'm located in Barcelona, and my hostel working life has been in Barcelona and in Australia. So let's say about Agruppo a little bit. So basically, how did it start? It started with 3 people that are Gonzalo, Giuseppe, and Olga. And 2 of them are from Barcelona, from Catalonia, and Olga is from Murcia. So they decided at the beginning, right at the beginning of this crisis of the coronavirus, to put together some people, some contact that they have of hostels, to put in a common chat, like at national level. So this because it was a good way to just, start and share some doubts or questions or information that you can have, that we were having. And after a little bit, so when there was, let's say 50 or 60 people in it, they just decided that maybe we can try to do something, to build something from this community, from this hostel, so from WhatsApp chat. So I was collaborating, I'm still collaborating with Gonzalo for his, for one of hostel association in Barcelona, it's Barcelona Quality Hostel. And so he just asked me like, hey, just see what you can do. So just, invest part of your time in that one, because in Big Watch and Barcelona Quality Hostel is pretty quiet right now. And let's see what we can do. And if we can put some, like, we can create a sort of networking and with other hostels, and if we can actually, build a group of hostels. So from that point, I just jumped in these things, and I tried to, first things was like trying to identify everybody who was in the chat, because there were like 70 people, and I jumped in, I had no idea who, like, 60 or 70% of them were. So I was sending email and questionnaire surveys asking where they were from. And once we had these things, we kind of divided the group in different communities. I mean, comunidades, that here in Spain is like the region, we split like Spain. And from these different groups, we try to find like a representative, or someone who can say, okay, I'm gonna represent my community, my group, with other people, with the other representatives. And from there, we just like get together, and we started to work on some things that were the things that were worrying people more, or the hostels in general more. And that's things where I think it's a little bit like everywhere, but here in Spain was the behavior of some of the OTAs, and that I don't know if we can make names or not. And then the problem of like the rent and the unemployed, so the ERTE that is called here in Spain, but basically it's like, I know that in Italy it's called Cassa Integrazione. So basically this, where you can put your employers when you close down, and all like the regulations and taxes and all these things that you have to pay. So we just say, okay, what can we do? We can write a document to these OTAs, and we can write that document to the government. But at that point, we were just like, few hostels, and we just say, okay, let's see if there is someone else that is interested, because lots of hostels started to say, hey, that's cool that we have like this network, because I didn't know these things. I'm like here kind of alone, and I'm a small hostels, and I didn't know what was going on. So thank you for helping me. And I said, okay, just let's do it, and let's see what it can be. And it just get bigger and bigger. We contacted more hostels, and it worked a lot with like, speaking, word of mouth, and so they were like talking with other hostels, say, hey, just join us. And so now we are around 110 hostels that I counted, so I can say we are for sure 110 hostels, but I'm also pretty sure that we are quite a lot more. We have association inside, and this is a little bit how it grew. It started. It was just like, let's try to put people together and see what's going on, and if we can reach and do something. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about how can they bring the hostels together in their countries, and they're planning on. So I'm sure a lot of people have been planning on this for quite a while. So what would you say are the main difficulties in getting a network like this together?
Okay, so the main difficulty is that at the beginning is quite, you have to invest some time in it, and you have to convince people, let's say, that they want to bring together. This is in hostel case, and in this case, because we have a common problem, that is the fact that the hostels has been closed, and so it was pretty easy. Let's say it was just like, hey, we know that you are in the same situation. We know that you have this kind of problem, because we are all having this, and you are a hostel owner or a manager or whatever. So you like hostels. So it's like, hey, why we don't, get in together and see what we can do, and let's help. So of course, what's the difficult part of this? That it might take time, and I mean, I spent afternoons just like, looking on Hostel World, Booking, Expedia, or different websites, so association, and just collecting all the emails, and then writing emails and sending the emails to them, and then, answering to the phone. Last week it was just like I was spending a lot of time on the phone. So yeah, it's a lot of chatting and talking and communicating things. But I mean, I will say the most difficult thing is finding a common things. That was the easier in a certain way, because we had a common thing in this moment that was like, hey, we are all closed and we have a problem. So the rest was just like, administration and hours. And then, well, yeah, you have to, in a certain way, be lucky that you meet people that are willing to help you, and they're like, working toward it, and they believe in the thing, in what you are saying, basically in what you are communicating them, and they say, yeah, that's cool, actually, let's bring together, let's go together, all these things. And they decide, hey, I want to help. And this is something that you can't really control. It's something that depends by every single person. But I also think that in this situation, for a lot of people were just like, at home. I mean, at home, because the hostel is closed. What you have to do is like trying to deal with the bank, and it's quite depressing. You have to try to deal with the owner of the building, and it could be stressful. You have to deal with agency, administration, unemployment, taxes, everything. So telling them, hey, can you just help me, doing a communication to communicate these things? They were like, hey, that's something good to do. That's something nice, and something that is kind of like dragging me out of this like negative moment, negative feeling. And also like, yeah, the fact of like doing a webinar, and then you have people saying, hey guys, thank you for doing this. So a lot of people is just like, they're feeling useful for something. And yeah, you have to transmit these things. But I think this is what, everybody do something because they like the sensation, the feeling of it, right? So I think this could be another point, just like try to communicate something and give something positive to do.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, because you made it very clear that the biggest challenge is time and effort. There's a lot of time you need to invest in, and a lot of effort. Not all hostel owners right now have that amount of time and effort that they can bring to this. But as it is something that's really important, another thing that we're struggling with is finances. So paying somebody to, do the hard work, especially on behalf of a network of friends or hostel friends, it can be kind of difficult to finance that right now. So what would you suggest for that? I mean, how to get the help, who to reach out to? Do we need to spend money in order to put an organization or a network together and not have to spend all our time in doing it?
Well, this is the point that would be eventually like a second step, because this is already thinking, okay, we are going to be an association, so it's going to be something official. In this moment, we are still just a group of friends who gathering together in a chat on WhatsApp, and we are just, trying to do our best to communicate that we are hostels and we own hostels and we are cool and come to us and we have problems. In the moment, so in this moment right now, people is investing their time and their connections, because it's a lot about connection. Then if you want to put these things in something more official, you want to put it like to create an association, that's a different thing. And we will see what's going on, how we can manage these things. At the moment, we are still like a group of people. And for financial things, you do need like a financial plan, and you need to see what you actually need to create it, what's the amount of money. And it's more like a business plan, basically. It's like when you want to create a business, when you want to open something, then you can find helps somewhere. You have to find help by yourself. This will be eventually a second step. In this moment, we still don't know. We are, we are working with the willing of people and say, yeah, I want to collaborate. Of course, this can't last forever. I mean, it's not something that you can keep people working for you for free. It's like, no, guys, you can't do it. But yeah, it's just like it's the beginning, and it's I think that at the moment, if you're doing it, you're dedicating a little bit of your time in something, it's because you believe that what you're doing it's useful, and it's something that you believe in. In the future, of course, if we want to keep doing it, we will find a way to, to pay back, and we'll think about something more official. But it's something that we would definitely, of course, like consider in the moment in which we decide, okay, perfect, let's be an association. At the moment, we are still working with help. It's like, saying, okay, perfect, I want to, let's cook dinner all together tonight. So I'm bringing the wine, I'm bringing the meat, I'm cooking, and I'm bringing the pasta, whatever. So if this is a collaboration, and then if you want to build up a restaurant, of course you can't ask to all your friends to keep bringing wine and keep bringing meat. But yeah, so that we will see. At the moment, the financial things will be the next step, but it's not the priority right now at the date of like 7th of May 2020.
And so what are you guys, as a hostel network, what are you guys currently doing, and what do you expect the end result will be?
Okay, so what we're doing right now, one of the things that we kind of gained, and it was cool, we managed to get a contact in one of because here in Spain they are creating a protocol of hygienic and sanitary measures that you have to take once you open it. And there was this working team about it, and one of the people that are in the chat and that are helping out in the collaborator, and she was in this working team, so we kind of gathering together a more official association in Spain, and we just try to chat a little bit and say, okay, how can we help? How can we, transmit to these people that are doing these protocols what are our needs? So they actually get there. So we had one representative there, and actually two. So it was good, and we helped it. Then we are going to have the official document tomorrow, and we have to see if they actually listen to us. We saw the unofficial version, and there were something that we said in it. It was like, hey, that's cool. They listen to us. But now it's going to the other levels, and we can't really. Well, we have to hope that they're going to listen. This is one thing, and it was a small victory. And then we did write a document to administration and to government, asking for things that are really common sense, common sense for all association of hosteleria, so all restaurants and hotels and accommodation. That was to put a little bit more flexible the ERTES, that is this thing of unemployment, and helping with some credits and helps from the state. I'm sorry, I don't know the specific word in English, but I think it's pretty clear. So we're just asking for some help, and we send it. Again, we are an unofficial group of hostels owner and hostel lovers who are together. So we're just saying, hey, we think that this is something that you will need to think about it. Then it's up to them decide if they want to listen or not. But I will also think that there are other official associations that are fighting for these things. So the fact that we say, hey, there are other 150 hostels, we have this number of beds, we have this number of employers. It's kind of hey, okay, so yeah, there is someone else that is asking for it. The more people is asking for it, maybe they listen. Again, you don't know. We can say, listen to us. And then the next things we are going to communicate kind of the same to the OTAs, just communicate them and see if they want to listen to us. And then, except for this boring stuff that we're trying to do, what we are trying to do is kind of bringing hostel together and also find a common point that it's keeping hostel together. So it's okay, so now we do have this problem. hopefully this that is coronavirus and the fact that we are closed and the fact that we have to wear masks and gloves and everything. We hope that this is going to go away kind of soon. So after that, what is going to stay? So I mean, what's the thing that is going to we will keep hostel together? And we are working on this. And one of the most important things is that we want people to know that hostels are not a second choice. It's not like we are not a second category. So it's not in Spain we have like a lot of time we just the hostel is another category. So if you look, it's like okay, hotel 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2 stars, and then other things, other categories. Like, and this is a hostel. They're like, no, the hostel is not another category. It's a hostel. And this is something that you kind of like bring. A lot of people is thinking the same. It's like, hey, I'm not another thing. I'm not another society, another category. I'm not a second choice. I'm just another kind of choice that a lot of people love. And in Spain, even if the market of hostels is huge because it grew a lot, grew a lot in the last years, Spanish people actually, they don't use hostels so much in Spain. So it's, except from some exceptions that are like groups and families and these things, but there are not so many Spaniards or Spanish travelers using hostels in Spain. If you talk with like most of them, touristic hostel, they say that they have like 95% of people of like guests that are from a foreign country. So we also want to like communicate to young Spaniards, say, hey, come to us and try this style of thing that we are offering, this style of accommodation. Because I talked with one of the girls that is helping us a lot, that is Anya, and she now is like she's a manager of a hostel in Galicia, and she told me, she's like, I can't say the age because it's private, is a girl. But she told me, it's like, I wish I knew the hostel when I was 16 or 18, but I have no idea about this philosophy. And I'm discovering it right now. And I love it, but I didn't know it because nobody told me, like, hey, it's so cool to go to a hostel. So this is one of the things that we want to communicate, and it's one of the reasons why we think we have to do some noise and tell, hey, we are here, we are hostels, yeah. And so many people is like, you know, looking online and say, what's a hostel albergue? Oh, look at it. This is, I mean, oh, that's cool. Look at this hostel, it's pretty cool. Look at this other one. Oh, so this is one of the things that we are also trying to do. And except, yeah, this trying to say that we need the same thing that a hotel need and this other stuff. But I think that for a hostel itself, this is more important. Like giving an identity and giving, yeah, a voice to the hostels.
Now, Daphne, if, just to give a little bit of context of what you said with the government and some things that were not common sense, I guess, just to let everybody know that in Spain, as of May 11th, I think it is, Daphne, you're allowed to open your hostel again. The thing is that on May 11th and afterwards, the borders are still I mean, like the regions are still closed. You can't travel even within Spain. So having a hostel open makes no sense when there's no even local tourism. I mean, there will be some local demand, but very few and not enough to open up a hostel. And so really the fear is, or was, you know, like, do I have to open? And if I don't open, will I still be allowed to have my people in layoff? It is layoff. And will I still receive the help? Will I still receive the help for the closure? So, as Daphne said, there's many other people, many other organizations that are getting the word out there to the governments and saying, like, listen, this doesn't make sense. Or if you're going to allow me to open, allow me to bring back my people from layoff little by little based on my production. And that's where having a hostel association or a hostel network is also really important, to bring our own intricacies into the mix and say, well, hostels need this in a certain way. Now, Daphne, we've had talks about possible benefits of not being heard because in many countries, hostels they go unseen. They're not really taking, nobody really pays attention to them, which might be beneficial in this case, because if, for example, they say, you can have 50% occupancy in hotels and in lodging establishments, then that could be okay for us. But if they say no common spaces, including rooms, because they think, oh, hostels, you share rooms, you can't be open, or you can't, you can only use it for one person, or what have you. So it can be, or we've said that it could be a little bit not like the opposite of beneficial. It could be detrimental if you kind of say like, hey, what about us hostels? Are you seeing any of that, or how how are you treading to make sure that as you voice about hostels, it doesn't raise any red flags that end up being detrimental to the hostels?
Well, it could be. I mean, I've been told a couple of times by other people, like, it just keep quiet and hope for the best. This is one option, but I think that there will be a moment in which eventually someone is gonna say, I think it could be even worse if you open the hostel because nobody told you about anything about the hostel, and then in 2 months someone is gonna come and do an inspection and say, hey, what's going on, and you have to close down, and then in that moment they just realize that, oh well, we left out the hostels. And this one thing. Then the other side is like also that it's also true that if the state, the government say that we can't open because it's too dangerous for people to share a room, and so we have to stay closed, in this case the government also have to keep giving us the same or similar condition they are giving us in this moment. So it could be worse, it could be bad because you cannot open, but in the other hand, if you cannot open because the state, Spain, is saying you can't, they have to help you. So in the same way in which they're doing in this moment, they told us like you have to close from the almost like 20th of March, 17th of March, and they put all people all the employers in layoff, and they're helping with credits and all these things. That of course are not sufficient if you talk with everybody. So like of course, but it's something. So it could be dangerous, of course, but it's a risk that maybe is worth to try. Also because it's a worth to take. Sorry. So because it could, even if it could be negative in this point, also they say, okay, perfect. So you are different. You have to stay closed. They're like, perfect. So we are different. So when we can open, just keep in mind that we are different and treat us in a different way than a hotel. So just okay, if you treat me different now, then you will have to do it also later. Then again, this is an utopic, it's an idea, it's a utopia, of course, but I mean, it's common sense, this is how it works. Then common sense, yeah, it's less common than we think, I think. But yeah, this is a little bit the idea. It's like kind of give voice and hope for the best. Yeah.
I guess, I mean, like you mentioned about them maybe finding out about hostels after the fact. And I think that's actually a really good point, because if we make our voice now with the government, as long as the government is actually helping, because in many governments they're not helping or not doing much at all. But if they are helping, then definitely I think noticing our differences, for example, like if they say no common spaces or no shared bathrooms, or like every room has to be ensuite, and when if we bring it to light and say, okay, but hostels are based on common areas, most hostels have shared bathrooms and don't have many en-suites, and so the government doesn't want our business to fail. And so it's really good to show a powerhouse of hundreds of hostels coming together and saying, like, we will fail if you don't do something for us. Whereas if we don't do that, and if we don't bring our voices together, they could not only overlook us to our detriment, but if they do then recognize us, they may think that, okay, well, it's not a big deal. It's only, like a few hostels. Not recognize that it really is a big industry. All right, so thanks. Next question.
So you already talked about how you're still evaluating the future of the network, but what would you like this to become? What do you envision for the future of the network?
Okay. So this, yeah, it will depend a little bit from this eventually like a financial plan that we will have to do if we have if we can, and then decide, also see what's going on, because of course then when the common problem, when something that brings you together disappears, it's difficult to keep people together. And also when when something is free, everybody likes it. When you've been asked to pay it, it's like you're a little bit more reticent to do it. But so we see, I mean, I think that in the best scenario, so I have like two ideas, and most of the time like the reality is in the middle, is in between of them. But the best scenario is that a Grupo is going to be like a super cool things, super cool association, and we put a lot of hostels together, and we are going to like fight for the hostels to be recognized and to be separated in the hotel in a good way, not like now this kind of like, yeah, you're like in the corner, something like good, and we are like we live happily ever after, and we're going to be like a successful association where everybody wants to knock at our door, say, hey, can you keep me? This is like the best scenario. The worst scenario is like, that we solved this problem, coronavirus disappeared, everybody start to think for themselves again, and we just like, a Grupo kind of died. But we can still do something. We can still have, we will have more contacts, because this is like, I'm talking with so many people in these days. So, and every single person has a new contact, at least one, and it's a networking that it's going to be useful in the future. Or it's just like, an idea, a way to in a different way, because you can have you can just have like a contact with someone else that it can help you, because you might have a doubt and you think, oh wait, when like, I don't know, 5 years ago I was talking with someone, let's see if they still have the hostel and maybe they can help me out. And you can put minds together, thoughts together, ideas together. And it's what a friend of mine told me like a couple of days ago, like that when you have an idea and you meet with someone you leave that has another idea, you leave with two ideas. And when you do the same with 100 people, you can leave possibly with 100 ideas different. And so this is good. It's gonna be useful for the future, for everybody, I think, for every single person that is inside in a Grupo. So the reality hopefully is gonna be in the middle. There are two ways, so we can decide to be a like official association, or maybe we can just decide to keep being a agrupación, as in Spanish. So like a group of people, a networking, and maybe we are working on social media. So like, you can maybe every single of us, of the collaborator, we can work a little bit together, 2 hours per week, and you can build something. So, I mean, you can keep a group alive, even in the long time. So I think this is the idea. We will see. We can't really, see. We can't really say, yeah, this is gonna be for sure. We're gonna work for it. We're gonna talk. We're gonna discuss with like more people that is in the group, of course, because this is a group. So it's like everybody has his own voice, and they can tell us that we are open to listen all the ideas that they have, and then we will just see how it's going.
Perfect. So I think we can already start the Q&A session. Lorenz already posted the question on the chat. Meanwhile, if anybody's also thinking about starting something like this in their own country, feel free to jump in and also share your ideas, what you're planning on doing. So let's move on to the Q&A. So Lorenz, if you want to unmute yourself and ask Daphne your question.
Right. Yeah. Are you listening this time?
Yes.
Kinda. Great, 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 great. So definitely, one of from what I've understood, you have like plenty of hostels, and you want to give a voice to the hostels, right? So and eventually, one of the problems of the association would be the financial part, or how you can get money of it. I don't know if anybody on the group remembers a website that was Hostel to Hostel. Uh, yeah, basically, their idea was for us. For example, a guest arrives in my hostel, and he says, "Hey, in the next 2 days, 3 days, I would love to go to Porto. Do you know any hostel in Porto for me to stay?" And I did. I was going to make that booking in the hostel in Porto, in my reception, okay, and basically from hostel to hostel, and hostel to hostel would get a small commission on the value of the reservation. All right. Also, my hostel would get a small commission of that reservation. So basically, it was more or less like an OTA, but the reception of my hostel and hostel to hostel, they were the OTAs. Uh, is that like one of the plans or something like that? Or it can be one of the plans? Thank you.
Well, Lorenzo, I didn't know about this hostel to hostel, but I would say that it might be an option. The only thing, the investment behind something like this is huge. It's something that you need to be sure that you want to do it and that it's going to work, because I mean, it's a sort of OTA, and yeah, the investment is really big. There have been in the past couple of years some new OTAs that are just like popping up, trying to fight against the bad boys, and they actually didn't work. So it could be a good idea, and I mean it's a good idea once that you have like a solid association, because once that you have a few hostels and they know more or less know each other, or they know that you are offering a certain like quality standard, then even if you don't know the other hostel, you for kind of free to say, hey, I don't know the owner of the manager of this hostel, but it's in the same association, just to get there. So it's actually a good idea, but we are not thinking about it right now, even if it has been spoken. But yeah, it's a big investment. So it will be something that eventually, I mean, if we are gonna manage to make this a group or association, that maybe will be in a couple of years. And so yeah, it's something that eventually will be like really in the future. But yes, there's a lot of people have talked about it, and I've asked to organize something, even like just a website where you can, show up all the hostels in Spain, and people can get there and select the hostels and eventually have a discount if they book through their page. And I don't know if someone is listening has been in Australia recently, but they do have something similar that is Hostels Australia. So you have like this website with few hostels, and you can click on it, and yeah, they recommend each other. They say it's, I think, similar to hostel, but it's all the profit. I mean, the good things go to the final customer, because they have a discount. But it's something that we will consider eventually in the future. Right now, no, because it's a big investment. So to do something that is made by ourselves. So yeah, it's a dream. A lot of people has it to do like a OTA just for hostels in Spain, and maybe let's just when spread it to other countries in Europe. But it's a lot of work, and it's something that you need time to do it. You can't wake up one night and one morning and say, well, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. Oh look, I just found 20,000 euro under my pillow to invest on it. But it's for sure a good thing. So thanks for sharing this hostel to hostel, because I actually didn't know. I will go and research on it. Thanks.
Awesome. So I see Julia has her hand raised, so feel free to unmute yourself, Julia.
Hi guys, ciao Daphne.
Bye, Julia.
So my question for Daphne, I promised I was gonna send her a message privately before making the wrong question, but I know we are on the same stage, so I understand you might not have answer for that. But my question is, Italian hostel are also trying to, we already create a group. I think there are a few Italians here in the call. So we are pretty much at the same stage you guys are, talking about creating an association. What kind of association? Because depending on the purpose, you have different status. I don't know if that's the word, but different kind of association that you can submit and promote in order to achieve the purposes you have. So my question would be, what is the bureaucratic process to get to an association? If there are steps to follow, which I imagine might be slightly different depending on the country, but if you have any idea about that. And after that, I can explain briefly what we have been coming up with in Italy, like what kind of common things we are underlining, basically.
So I'm not able to answer 100% to these questions because I don't really know them. We do have some collaborators, some people that is like actually, helping us, that they have more experience in this, in already opening an association, even was like more local level. And so they do have more ideas about how it works. We will find, so now it's kind of like, the priority was kind of sending these documents and putting people together and convince them that they won't be with us. Know that we have like a common problem. And now we are going to check and we're going to actually see what are the process to do and what are the steps that you need. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I'm not able to answer right now. I can send you a message like in 1 week if you want, but unfortunately, I'm not able to answer right now. There are some steps and you need to do like a statute, like say a statuto, and there are different like lines that you can follow. But I'm sorry that I can't really give you a perfect answer in this one.
Thank you. So what we came up with in a possible association, we are still struggling to find like speakers who want to take the commitment and stuff, but there were a few ideas, some of them quite ambitious, really good idea, but ambitious, which I'm afraid we won't be able to put in place. Someone suggests to make a common channel manager for all the associates, in order to be able to, of course, after approving like a strategy plan, but to be able to control everyone availability in order to fight against, we all know which OTA. And so basically they wouldn't listen to you unless you intimidate them saying, I'm gonna close like 1,000 beds for like August or whatever. So they have to listen to you, and hopefully you can try to negotiate on commission and stuff like that, which I think is really interesting, because this way no one can just agree on doing something and then, oh, but I still have 1 bed left. I'm not gonna sell it because I promised that. On the other hand, it might be really complicated to have a unique channel manager for everyone, that we have to adapt with PMS for the ones who have PMS and stuff. But generally speaking, I think is a really good idea. That won't probably have results in a short term, but maybe in a long term, especially when we hopefully start working again in high season. next year, it might be really interesting to try. And another point was, as in Spain, Italy is also count on foreign tourism. We have a really, really small percentage of locals staying in hostels. And also because hostels are even less known. Well, now in Spain, hostels are pretty famous. At least you have hundreds of hostels. I think in Italy, we are less than 1,000 in all the country. So it's more difficult for us to have a voice, being recognized as not a second choice. So the other thing we were talking about was how we can promote our product, our service to a specific target that at least for this summer will be like local, so Italian. It's all really general, like we haven't found a solution yet, but we were trying to focus on the main problems, basically. That's it.
Thanks, Julia. So we also have Pam with her hand raised. So Pam, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
If it's loud, I apologize, but we're in the middle of a DJ recording session. I just wanted to jump in, hopefully short, to maybe answer to Julia about association, if I understood correctly what Daphne was talking about. Here in Croatia, in Zagreb, we do have it already, but it's not functioning. That's a whole other story. But in general, to create association, you need a lot of paperwork and a little bit of money to start. Usually it starts with, I'll just keep it simple now, you have to Google this in your area, but it usually starts with the city council or something for association. So basically NGOs, if that's what we're talking about, right? Like not NGOs, but like non-profit, it's not a business. You need to go to this country statistic office. You need to go to the bank to open an account. You need to write, we call it here statute, which is kind of like the law or like what you do. So it is a bit of a process to do. You need the president, the secretary, the blah, 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 all of that. So every country has this, every city has this. Of course, it depends on your specific location. Like nobody can give you exact answer. You kind of have to figure this out on your own, but like literally any association has to have their stuff on the website. So that's where you can start. It's a good idea if you can make people join and actually be productive. We had a conversation literally yesterday about this in Swanky here, and the struggle is, again, as I said, we do have that here, but pardon my French, nobody gives a shit. So it's impossible to be alone among 65 hostels and nobody wants to do anything. So good luck to everybody who is willing to start this fight. As for the locals not being interested in staying in hostels, what I've been seeing, what we're working on in general is like people won't have a choice almost, because first travel will happen inside of the country. A lot of people are seeking actually alternatives because a lot of Airbnbs are not coming back or whatever they're doing. Hotels are not opening or they're out, like whatever is, everybody's situation is specific for their country. But I literally have few people contact me about, do you know a hostel somewhere? Like, how much is it? Like, because again, people who are willing to travel are also people now on a budget that maybe before weren't. So if you're lucky enough to have good and nice private rooms, I wouldn't exclude that. Of course, it's not going to bring, I don't know what kind of money, but like literally today, a situation happened where a guy booked an apartment, but he refused to stay there, and they called us to put him in a private room. So go figure, right? So keep an open mind and positive, and just start from scratch and just be open for any idea. That's my 2 cents. Goodbye.
Thanks, Pam. So I don't know if you want to comment anything about this, Daphne. Also, like if you have any suggestions of how hostels can come together and bring the local community, what kind of actions can you as a network take to like almost educate people that hostels are here and we're a valid type of accommodation?
Well, I was speaking like earlier this afternoon with a group from one of the community here in Spain, and one owner of a hostel, she say like, "Hey guys, I'm not seeing us in the media, and and we're like, I'm not talking about social media, I'm not talking about internet, I'm talking about the media that gets in the house. So like the TV, the radio, bit less, but yeah, TV, radio, and with some like newspaper." So it's like she said the right thing. It's like you need to find a way to communicate to locals that you exist, and one way is the television, television and radio. So one of the things that we are trying to do, because I'm gonna think we got lucky enough that one of the people that was like really willing to communicate, she was working in a communication agency like before opening a hostel, so she's like really expert in these things. And yeah, this idea like trying to communicate and trying somehow to get on the TV. And yeah, of course, again, we are a group of hostels and we are just like a small part. Maybe, you just start to hear something and then people get interested in it. So I think that would be like a cool idea, like a fantastic goal, like to get on the TV somehow, just like a group of people who is coming together, or somehow, just because in this way you get to locals more. And then yeah, of course, we have, I think that most of our customers are millennials. So this, the other way is social media, and trying to communicate, and just also like convince your friends. I mean, I brought a lot of my friends to hostel, and they were like, "Oh, I will never put feet in a hostel. Oh my God, no, please, sharing room with people." And I forced them, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is the best experience of my life." It's like, yeah, welcome to the nice world. So I think we have just to promote it, and as hostel owner, of course, and also just talk with our friends. Sometimes just force them to do it, explain them that this is not a bad place, and just yeah, talk to our families, and especially if we are like locals, of course, and push it. It could be also like, I mean, we have had problems with some neighbors when I was working in a hostel here, because yeah, of course they saw us like, oh yeah, it's loud because it's a hostel. Like, well, it might be louder maybe than a hotel, but it's not because I'm a hostel that I'm gonna bring here like bad people. I'm just like to communicate this idea and to kind of like, yeah, wash off the bad name. But again, I think it's yeah, television and radio could be a good thing. It unfortunately worked really well from some dictatorship in the past, and just transmit ideas. Hopefully, I mean, definitely better than some of the horrible ideas that were like in the past. But yeah, it's still something, a really strong weapon of communication. And of course, it could be, yeah, of course, nobody, I mean, it's not like, you have like someone falling from the sky that is gonna bring you to television. Yeah, I totally agree. It's luck, and it's, again, for example, I didn't know this person before until 3 weeks ago. I had no idea who this person was, that this is actually gonna help us. And this is where it helped, this thing, like, spread the word, bring people together, bring hostels and people together, and then tell them what is your idea, and you will find someone that agree with this idea. Maybe this someone will tell this idea to someone else, and they will agree, and then you will find what you need or what you're looking for. It's, I mean, there is like this law of the 6 degrees of separation, that basically they say that there are 6 degrees of separation between us, everybody with us, and like the president of the United States. So I think that there might be 6 degrees of separation between us and someone that has a contact on the TV. It's just, just trying to spread the word. Then again, it might not work. It's a lot of luck in these things. It's a lot of work on a side, and it's also part of luck, being in the right moment. But it's like everything in life, I think. So yeah, if you want to convince locals, come talk to them, first, communicate it to them in every way you can. And if you're lucky enough to have like a contact in the TV, just find a way to get in the TV and hope that they're gonna get kind of like, hey, yeah, that's cool, it's a hostel. Yeah, what's the difference of a hotel? So yeah, let's see what's going on.
Thing is, Daphne, I think this is actually a really great time and great topic that we have for this is, I mean, to communicate that hostels are what they are and to get people to buy into them so that the locals start using them, even so that they see I mean, people are seeing more the importance of small local business and things like that. But you need to give them something to communicate. So I really think that one thing that the hostel network or association, whatever it is, really needs to be used for at this time and urgently, if it's really going to help, is to create some sort of platform where it represents hostels of the country. So it could be, for example, like Spanish hostel platform. It kind of goes back to what the hostel to hostel that Lorenzo was talking about. But it's not necessarily as an OTA, but just creating a platform and communicating hostels and destinations in the country, creating a hashtag like, you know, travel your country or something like this, and then giving the like having a press release that gives them something to show up on the news or on the media. It can't be just like, oh, come to hostels. I think it needs to be a little bit more than that, and that does take a lot of work. But I think that's something that could definitely fully take advantage of a hostel network and use the resources that everyone has. You know, maybe someone's in film and production or knows somebody and can create a really catchy video that's as a hook. I'm kind of thinking about Adopt a Hostel and how we brought it together is very similar to this, you know, like creating a website showing the need and then creating a lot of members in order to make it something serious, and then send out a press release where people see like, oh wow, this is, you know, this is something and it's really important. And then we've been published in many spaces and many places, and we're foreseeing that we're going to be published a lot more. But I think I'm seeing that go in really well with this network and creating a buzz, and the importance of including hostel in local tourism and making the locals understand and communicating to them what a hostel is and why they should choose it. As you say, now is a perfect time because they're maybe on a budget that they weren't before. And also it's really important to communicate with them that, you know, like social distancing's all fine now, but we need to come together again as a community as soon as we can, and kind of showing the community while still being safe, so that people don't think, you know, like before they were thinking bed bugs, now they're thinking viruses in my room, you know, and I don't want to share my room with other people. And so we need to be able to also communicate to them that, you know, we're bringing back the community and we're not doing it in an unsafe way. So I think, yeah, it's good to move on that. Dror has his hand up.
Hey, all right. So a couple of things, I think, for both Daphne and Julia regarding like these hostel associations. Us in Peru, we never had one, or in Bolivia, but like when we looked at, when we are now in Buenos Aires, and we have a lot of friends in Brazil, and I know both had active associations. Both countries, the associations kind of died because a lot of the people in those associations like actually day-to-day competition. And that's something like, so now we're not in competition because none of us gets any guests, but the moment we reopen again, it becomes day-to-day competition between the different hostels, which is natural. I think it's worth trying to talk to people. There's quite a few from both countries on the group, the hostels group, and you can just ask there. I think it's worth like listening to other people's experiences, so you don't make the effort and then it dies for things that you can actually learn from somebody who like had that bad experience before and maybe try to prevent it from the beginning. And I think that's at least one very important thing. The other one is that us, we kind of took it something maybe to some extent similar, but took it in a completely different direction. We've been working now for a few weeks, probably 3 weeks now, to create a chain of individual hostels in different places in South America. Currently at about 18 between Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, and Argentina. With the idea of having one or two similar style hostels, all fun and social places in each one of those countries in like the major cities, or at least like in the cities that get like most tourists. With the idea that when we actually start getting to travelers, then it'd be easier to like recommend between the places. So when we actually come out of this together, we're better. We actually call it Together Hostels. There's a website, I'll show it in a second. You can have a look at it. It's currently, the structure and everything is built. It just doesn't have the content. We're waiting on content from all the hostels for photos and videos. So we can actually put that all up. And as a starting point, what we decided is to create a voucher. In a way, I think a bit similar to like the adopt a hostel kind of idea, but like instead of being able to use the voucher just in the one place, being able to use it in any place in the chain. So that part of the idea is that us in Loki, we have a lot of Brazilian travelers that come to Loki, but very few, like we have no places in Brazil. So somebody can actually buy a voucher from Loki and want to start traveling, use it in the hostels in Brazil that are part of this chain. And that way get like all the places get a bit more exposure and a bit more movement when we actually start getting travelers. I can show the website quickly. Right, hope you can all see this. So this is pretty much the website. It has the video is currently a video from Loki, but we're working on a video between all the hostels. It's an independent hostel chain with the idea of supporting the independent hostels. If we talked about OTAs earlier, and I have no problem saying booking.com. I don't think it's like Voldemort. So we have like, what we're saying is like we are waiting for a guest, we are waiting for them to come back. And we will have like here just a list of all the hostels with information about them. And then going back to the voucher purchasing, this is like a simple example. So like you'll have like different value vouchers. And then we're actually using two local voucher solutions. One is Mercado Pago and the other is Tab Travel, which I think is like worldwide. That was like generally our approach to this. So instead of actually trying to get businesses to compete with each other, the only times we have two places in the same city is when the owners are running similar type business and are good friends. Okay. That's it for me.
I actually, it's brings me back 7 years ago, actually 10 years ago, sorry, when I got into the hosteling industry. We started making a network of friends hostels, and it was important to have the same kind of vibe, or the same kind of hostel. You wouldn't want to have like one party hostel and another one's just like a yoga hostel, so we created a network in Spain actually and Portugal of similar hostels, and we actually called it Hostel to Hostel. I believe it was before Hostel to Hostel. And we did exactly that, like sent guests that wanted a similar type of hostel in the next destination that they were going to, and we would give them a discount. I think we gave 5% discount on the direct reservation, and then we also took a 5% deposit, and that was like a commission for the hostel that made the booking. So it's kind of like, it wasn't an OTA, but like each hostel would kind of get something for the work that they were doing and promoting the other hostels. But that wasn't really important. It was also the incentivizing the staff to recommend, because we gave them that commission actually to the staff. Anyway, it was very difficult because it's really hard to fight against OTAs or to try to take anything away from them. People just like, it's not the way it used to be, where people would see pamphlets and say like, oh, okay, like I'm going to this city next, and they see the pamphlets and they look at that. They just go online, go on the OTA and filter through the hostels. They don't really ask for recommendations so much anymore. When they do, policing each hostel to make sure to communicate to their staff and train their staff about the procedures of how to do that, of who to recommend, getting them to know the hostels so they can actually recommend it because they were there. It's beautiful and it's a great concept. It's a lot of work and effort, and I didn't see much of a result from it. Now, about the gift cards or the vouchers across different businesses, I'd be curious to know how that goes, because I find we were thinking of this with Adopt a Hostel, of, you know, like a gift card that could be used at other hostels, but then it's like, okay, so you buy it from one person, but then they get the income, but then they use it somewhere else. Does that balance at the end? And will a hostel think at the end, like, well, this hasn't balanced because nobody's bought a card from me and are using it at my property, and everyone's using it at my property, I'm leaving this, and they just leave. And so, and then if somebody goes to use a gift card that they thought they could use at that property, and you have to police that that property actually redeems that voucher and does it properly, it's a lot. So I'd be really curious to hear how that goes and how you worked out all those kinks. In Adopt a Hostel, for example, for us, it was just as simple as saying, like, every hostel has their own voucher. If they are a chain, they can buy a voucher for the chain and they could use it across that chain because the income is going to that chain. But just let everything happen directly. We don't intermediate with the money or anything. And everyone just sells their own gift cards and they redeem their own gift cards, and they're responsible for how they redeem it, making sure that it's done properly. If somebody doesn't, you know, properly redeem, it's their problem, not ours. So yeah, but thanks for that, Jor. Beatrice, do we have anything else?
No, nothing else.
Cool. Anyone else has like has created a network? I'm sure a lot of people are, especially now in these times. So if anyone else has any sort of network or associations that they are forming and how that's going, what they're dealing with. Daphne, I was actually going to ask you, you mentioned about concerns or issues that you guys were bringing up to the OTAs. What exactly are you bringing to them and how are you presenting it?
Okay, so we found another of this, like, sign of universe, a person that is helping us, and she used to work in one of these OTA, and the big one, we all know which one. And so yeah, she just giving us some contact, and we also just give it to account managers, and we send it for like different people, and that's all. So we just send it. Then this is
what are you sending? What are you communicating with them?
So we are communicating to them that we would like to fight for like a commission, reducing of the commission, and we are like offering a certain percentage that we know that it's not gonna happen, of course, but just like asking them, because they are facing quite a bad time as well. So, I mean, yeah, of course, hostels and hospitality in general is bad. So think about someone that is making money out of hospitality in this moment. Yeah, so they're like, it's a bad moment for them, and it could be a good moment to try to negotiate and like reduce a little bit the commission, even if it's going to be like 1% or 2%. It's for like a short time. Of course, you can't ask it forever, but it could be a little bit. And so this is one thing. And then the second thing that we would like to try to communicate to them, it's to collaborate, actually to work on a clause that it's gonna like kind of protect us and them in case of another force majeure cause that is gonna happen in the next years. Then of course we are all hope that it's not gonna happen in the next few years, and that none of us is gonna be here for the next one. But it happened once, so it could happen again. And I think that actually booking, I say it, I think that they actually,
Voldemort.
And I think that they are actually working on it. So because all the big OTA, they don't want this to happen again. They don't want that they have to give like refund all the reservation because it's bad for the small businesses, for hostels and hotels, but it's also bad for the OTA because they are not making any commission. But this is a point. It's just like, hey, we would like to collaborate. We are asking for it. And again, we can ask, but you can reply to us. No, in Italian we say chiedere lecito, rispondere cortesia. Italians will understand me. But it's then of course we were like at the beginning of the chat, Lior, you probably have seen it, that a lot of people were just like saying, okay, so let's stop selling beds to this OTA because this is the solution, so they're going to listen to us. Yeah, but the thing is, right now, in which we are not selling any bed, unfortunately, they are not going to listen to us, because you can say that like, hey, I'm not going to give you my beds. Like, yeah, that's fine, so give them to someone else, find to someone who wants it. So it's something that eventually, if you want to, kind of like step on it, you need to do it when everything gets back to normal and or something better. And this is a point that someone pointed that I think was Dror. Of course, when everything gets back to normal, it's also like we start to be competitors again, a lot of us. So it's going to be difficult to convince them to say, hey, let's close a viability, as Julia said. So this could be like a good option if the association has the control of everything, but in the other ways, also kind of like limiting the way of the power of managing it. But yeah, so we're just trying to ask them these things, and we don't really know if they're going to ask us. Spoiler, probably they won't, but again, it's just asking and try to talk with them, and again, and show that we are coming together and we are asking all together things. Then it's up to them to just ignore us as they did when everything started, or try to kind of step back and try to like gain again the confidence of their partner, because they lost it. I mean, there's a lot of people that is just mad at them. So it could be like a good way to just, somehow say, hey, okay, we are gonna step back and reduce our commissions. Again, another utopia, yes. I'm not saying that we are gonna save the world and everybody's going to listen to us. We don't have anything to lose, actually. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is like, they're gonna say us, no, oh, okay, that's fine. We're gonna keep working in the same way. But it's not something that is gonna, it's not something that you take a risk. In this case, you don't take any risk. It's just asking. The biggest risk is to receive a no. That's, I think we all can live with this one. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I think that's everything for today. So thank you, Daphne, again for joining us and for being a part of this Hostel Chat.
So do you mind if I just jump in?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Hey, hi, I'm Gwanaji. I haven't actually spoken at all in these meetings so far, but I'm sitting right across from Draw. I'm in Buenos Aires as well with him. I just wanted to use the opportunity while we're on this call to just mention something that we're doing this weekend that I've put into the WhatsApp group as well. We're trying to build like a virtual hostel experience, which we've been working on for the last couple of weeks. And this weekend we're doing an around the world bar crawl. So we're basically getting people, we're thinking for about 12 to 14 hours. We're going to be doing a big Zoom call and a live broadcast on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch with like 15-minute, 30-minute sections from different people around the world to kind of host in your virtual bar. So we have like cocktail classes and cooking classes and just hangout sessions and having a drink and hang out with friends around the world. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in here because I sent a link in the WhatsApp group as well, because if anyone wants to jump in and join that or host for a period of time, it'd be really cool to have some people. Like we specifically have a couple of spots missing from Europe, which is where most of this group is from as well. So yeah, we're doing that on Saturday and I sent in the WhatsApp group.
Awesome, thanks.
All
All right, guys. Yeah, Beatrice.
yeah, so thank you very much for everybody for coming, for joining us. As usual, I'll send a follow-up email with the recording. Thank you again, Daphne, for joining us. And so we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Ciao, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daphne.
Thank you. Bye, guys.